All right, we're
All right.
recording. So
Okay.
yeah, let's
Um,
get straight
just
into it.
just a
Hmm?
quick question. I tend to use very colorful language sometimes. I don't know if that's okay or not. I'll just, if not, then I'll try to not use that, offensive words. So I swear like a sailor. So it's
That's
anyway.
it's fine, like in
Okay.
moderation. We just
I
can't we
gotcha.
can't have half of it be like shit or damn or whatever. But if you want to
Oh,
cuss, then
right,
that's
right.
fine.
Okay, okay. I'll come up with something colorful. So, but all right, let's do this.
Yeah. So like, okay, let's just get straight into it. So again, Jason McDonald. You've done like a lot of stuff in like Sporn's like in Sporn's studio. And this is like a series where I'm trying to interview a lot of people who worked with Michael Sporn to get like other perspectives of him because like you know
Hmm.
about his blog, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember when he started it. Not, I don't think on the Broadway studio, or maybe he did. For some reason, I remember it being on Bedford Street, that the basement studio. If you knew about that, I think that's where he really started the blog because I think the blog started in what was it,
That's old.
2015? Yeah, I mean it's been around for a long time. One second. Where is it? I don't want to eat up time here. Yeah,
It's
2005.
like
So
yeah.
this was after he had moved from the Broadway studio to Bedford, which was a it was a down the basement, down a set of stairs, and then you had to walk down through a side corridor
Mhm.
outside to get in, and it was literally in a cellar. Um, and it flooded in the springtime. Uh,
Oh,
yeah, to a point where he had to build a small brick wall about a foot and a half in the doorway to keep the water out because there was just these downpours. And
mhm.
anyway, but you
Like a
start, you start.
yeah.
So
I was
please.
just gonna say like let's like just like a quick rundown on you so
Mm,
that people can get some
okay.
information.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, I came to New York in 1984, went
Hmm.
to Parsons School of Design, studied illustration. My senior year, I took a class with Howard Beckerman, who was teaching just a one semester little animation class. Um, I drew like crazy. I did walk cycles and a little character thing. Didn't think anything of it until I graduated and was working at a video store. I was miserable, and I wound up going to uh, a Christmas party at the new school. A friend of mine was a faculty member, and he was like, "Come on, it's free drinks, free food. You're poor. Let's go." So there, ran into Howard. He was there and asked what I was doing, and I said, "Well, I just quit my job today." And he's like, "Well, I may have something for you at my place. Come by after the new year." And he gave me the address. And I worked for Howard and his wife Iris. Was on a 45th Street when Howard's studio was at, and I worked there for about not even a year. Work fizzled out, and then he was like, "Look, there's this guy Michael Sporn.
Mm.
Go check him out. He needs a runner. He needs somebody for his studio. Had just moved from, I believe, 40th Street down to Broadway, 1900 Broadway. It's just below Bleecker Street. So I called him up. I was so nervous, rambled off, got to go meet him. I got the job. Uh, I was only getting paid, I think it was $200 a week.
Oh yeah.
And then after taxes, it was
Oh, yeah.
$188. And I had to take the work. There was no question. I had to do it. I wanted to do it. Started off as a runner, taking artwork up to cameraman, taking the film stock that was shot at the cameraman to the labs that were all over the city. Would take artwork to animators, Tisa David. I used to bring up paper. I was the only one, supposedly, she said that I could punch paper properly, which I held in high regard.
I would too.
Um, yeah, she was pretty amazing. But yeah, so and then it was just I was when I wasn't running, I would be in the studio, I'd be working on production, we be knocking out stuff, and I would eventually it got to a point where Michael came over to me and he was just like, "Hey, uh, do you like nursery rhymes and fair, stuff?" And then I said, "Yeah, sure." And he goes, "Excuse me." He threw this piece of paper down in front of me, and it was the Cat and the Fiddle, Hey Diddle Diddle piece, and he was just like, "Storyboard this, give it to me by the end of tomorrow." So I think I knocked the thing out within like a day and a half, gave it to him, and he was like, "Great." And he threw a bunch of more paper at me with more of these little nursery rhymes and little poems and stuff. So, and I said, "What do you want me to do?" And he was like, "Do whatever you want, man. Just, just do it. Just finish it." So, I just was just churning these things out, and eventually we released two films for Tunes, and there were lullabies and nonsense, and the other one was like fairy tales and something or other, storybooks thing, whatever. And that way, that's when I became kind of like a mini art director for like the little projects, like Sesame Street stuff. And
Mhm.
when we did Whitewash, I was a layout
Oof.
artist down
Yeah.
there. But the big thing was Champagne,
Yeah.
working on Champagne, because that was through Maxine wrote, she had knew Champagne through her contacts. She was part of the system of helping kids that parents were in trouble. So Michael was like, "I want to do this like the Hubblies. I want to interview Champagne. I want her to tell her story. And then we're going to transcribe it and I'm going to give you it. And then you're going to animate, you're going to storyboard it." So, and that was like a big passion project for him. And that was just like absolutely amazing to like work on. Um, and I tried to adhere to certain things, and he had already actually started animating. He just hit the ground running. I think he's the only animator I know that would actually animate in pen. No pencil, just boom right into it. He would do his keys, and then he would just start animating all the way through in pen. And he'd come in like the next day with a stack of stuff that just, it was like, holy my God, I couldn't believe
Yeah.
like that he was able to do that. He prided himself in saying that he only needed like 2 hours of sleep, something to that
Mm.
effect. So
Mm.
he would be up all night and working on stuff and then crash and what have you. So yeah, I mean, I was there. I started in 89, I think it was, and I was there solidly all the way up until 95. Um, I saw two kind of mixed groups of people come through. Um, he had the core people there when I first got there. It was oh God, it was Robert Marinetti, Steve McQuinian. Oh my God, no, Super Auto didn't come in until then. Hold on, I have my I have my cheat sheets here. You remember like people, but it's anyway. God, there was just a host of other people that working with him. Mike Wisniewski, George McClemens, Tisa Smythe. God, just yeah, the list goes on and on. Oh, okay, here we go. So yeah, and then was it Perlman was editing there? Bridget Thorne, who was
Hmm.
Michael's close confidant. They worked
Yeah,
on.
she's
Oh yeah, she was absolutely amazing. I learned a lot of stuff
no, I know.
from her backgrounds, and then of course Ray Cosrin,
Yeah.
I think mentioned Mike Wisniewski, but Mary Thorne, Masako Kamiyama. Yeah, I mean, there's like the list went on and on. And I was there while like people would phase out and new
Yeah.
people would phase in. Like Dave Levy came in. There was a one moment where Mo Willems came in right after he had graduated from NYU. Couldn't draw if his life depended on it. Other people's work. Um, and yeah, so as I saw a lot of different people. Matt Sheridan, who I think now he's a famous video artist, projection artist. He's like in LA now. But yeah, Ed Eskenazi was there for a while as Michael's editor. And like I said, one of the amazing things about working in that studio that no school could ever replicate. I learned more on the job training than anything else. I mean, we had everything there. We had the writers, you had people doing design, storyboard, background, and then all while you're sitting there working, you got some music on, you headphones, and then you'd hear from the editing room, you'd hear the old Steamback like going, and Ed's cutting the film and replaying the same loops of dialogue over and over and over
Ooh,
again.
let's get tired of
So
that.
after a certain point, it becomes like just like white noise, just the sound of like, so yeah. And then I mean it was great. We really knew how to work with each other. Sometimes tensions would rise just like any place, but Michael knew how to like treat us with a certain type of, I don't know, we always were afraid of him in certain ways. Especially if you were animating for the first time for him and you'd go and you'd shoot your stuff on the back camera and he'd play it back and he'd look at it once and then he'd look at it again and he'd go like, great, go on to the next scene. And we're
Mhm.
like, no notes? And he was like, there's just no time. So, but yeah. So give me another question.
To be fair, you just answered like a good 30-40% with that. Yeah, with that. So
Okay.
that's
I mean,
good.
I
Because
could talk about the techniques that we use. It was cool. Each group had its. If you go to his blog site and you just go and look at the birthday parties that he used to have, everybody would there would always be a cake for somebody there. Heidi would come in on Thanksgiving the day before and we had like pumpkin pie. On either on Christmas Eve, we would not really work and just drink.
mm,
Back in the 80s and the 90s, I mean that was the thing. It's I've never the only people that have ever come close to drinking as much as animators are construction workers who at the end of the day like open a six pack and they get smashed. I mean, these people, we would finish up at 7 o'clock and go out, and this is, of course, the village back in the early '90s, and we would just hit bars and we'd be out all night, and then be back, the next day, ready to hit the ground running. So, yeah, it was pretty crazy.
I
So,
imagine it must be like, yeah, you absolutely like wasted one night and then yeah, come in, draw with a hangover.
oh yeah, and we always prided ourselves as like I'm a professional drinker and a professional animator. So but we used to laugh about that. We were like, we're making films for Sesame Street and HBO and some other places, and we're like laughing, going, I'm drinking the money that I made from making stuff for kids. So, but it was crazy. Yeah, obviously, you probably have a ton of other questions. You must.
Yeah,
So,
it's like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Um, and like, cause like Champagne, I wanted that's like I have this one like the
sure,
short film I haven't watched, but I really do want to watch it because the premise just sounds so. It sounds really intriguing to me because like obviously when you think of
yeah,
like stuff for kids, you have like and then you get like a film like that, or it's about like a girl. I mean, it's being interviewed about like her mom who's in jail and is also like a drug addict, and it's
yeah,
just very heavy topics. But then
and
so it's the
killed her
challenge,
father.
and it was a
So,
murder.
yeah, yeah.
Very relentlessly heavy
Really
topics, and
dark stuff. I mean, like,
yeah.
this isn't for kids. I mean, I remember like telling people, "What are you working on?" I'm like, "I'm working on a film about this girl talking about her life story and this, and this." And they're like, "What? You're making a film for kids?" And yeah, no, we were doing that in between jobs. So we would have the HBO stuff and the Sesame and some other types of work that was funneling through money, but and everything was done on like, okay, we got some time, we got a week, we're switching to Champagne. So it was just really Michael and myself working on that. I think Adrian Urquidez at that time, I think that's when we started actually coloring the artwork, um, and then started getting some stuff shot. So because if you watch the film, the first half Michael animated himself and he'd
Okay.
even designed some of the backgrounds for it. But then when it goes, there's a certain point in the film where Champagne's asked about her fantasies of like what her life was as a child. And then that's when I came in and I went into this whole uh, just visual kind of spectacle kind of thing. And I'm one of the things, God, was it side note, not a side note, but there's a scene in the film where we have a bus traveling to the prison, and I designed this pan background that had all these like sloped hills, and uh, I forget the name of the film. Oh, it's called Hill Farm by oh God, a British animator. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he inspired me in this scene. So I had to animate this little bus in stop motion. And I actually went to, I think it was Gary Becker, his camera studio, and he had another cameraman named Bob Bushell, who is an old time cameraman and really nice guy. And I actually got to animate underneath the camera with him. And halfway through it, he just drops this bomb on me. He goes, "Oh, this reminds me of the time I was animating the opening to The Honeymooners." And I'm like, "What? Jackie Gleason, Art Carney, you animated the opening credits, all that cross dissolve and the moon and rising." And he goes, "Oh yeah, no, yeah, I did all that under camera." And I'm like, "You got to like tell me the whole story about that." So I was like, "Wow, I'm so honored. Like I'm working with somebody that did this little thing. And it's obscure maybe to some people. It was like, oh, it's just animation. No one knows like who actually did that one particular like little thing. But I'm like, hey, so I got to work with him on that. But so yeah, we and then I got to do some animation in Champagne, which was I am such a bad animator because
Wow.
I had too many in betweens. I mean, that's my problem. So everything looks like it's moving like this. It doesn't have any like natural like movement at all. But I mean, I designed it and I did the background. So I mean, it's the thing. Champagne actually did work in the studio at a time. Later on, she was we gave her like an internship.
Hmm.
So she was a runner, and she was working, so she got to see all this stuff that was going on.
Uh,
um but so yeah, I mean, we finished that film, and it was just this, like I said, this small little thing. Where the hell do you sell it? No one would take it. HBO wouldn't touch it. um I think Michael went to Western Woods. They wouldn't touch it. He went to other networks. Even in the cable and companies, I mean, Nickelodeon wouldn't go near it.
Obviously, no.
Um,
Yeah.
no, which was crazy because at the time, I think that's when Ren and Stimpy were like big. So it was just like, oh, so I guess fart jokes and pee jokes are the thing, but you can't do some, autobiographical
Yeah.
story. But I remember when Michael finally started entering it in festivals, and I think it was the Chicago Children's Film Festival. He entered it, and I think best it won best in show or audience. Like the audience voted it for the best film. And a week or two later, we started getting mail from kids who had
Hmm.
seen the film. And you open up these letters, and there's illustrations. I mean, these kids are from ages, I guess, maybe 10 or a little bit older, maybe 10 to 14 years old, 15 years old. And these letters, I have a few of them somewhere,
Okay.
um, but thanking us for making this film, that they felt a connection with her, that they felt like, oh, my life is awful, her life is awful, but she's turned things around. And man, I'm an old softy. I get more emotional as I get older, but the impact of that, it was like, wow, I made a kid like realize he's not alone. They're not alone. And that's just absolutely wonderful. And I was just
Yeah.
like, just words cannot express like how fantastic that was to brighten someone's future.
Yeah.
Um, Side note, we he thought of an idea of doing another film, actually, not a continuation of Champagne, though that was an idea that we kind of had in a box that said, okay, what if we went back and interviewed her 10 years from now? Kind of like do this, like, we're checking in on her and like what's happening with her. Like, she's going to school, is she's getting married, is she having children, like following this person's life as she goes. But in the meantime, we thought of Michael has read a story about, I think it was out of Chicago, where it was a gang of kids who pushed another kid off a rooftop.
Mm.
And it was like some gang initiation thing. And Michael actually had contacted the reporter who had contacts with the family, both the victim and the assailant's family. And they were open to being interviewed about what happened and stuff. And Michael was like, if I could tap into these type of stories from around the country, then you could put them together as a package kind of thing. You could do, Champagne with this other story, or you could have a series of of these films. So they're like mini animated documentaries. And Michael took it to Sheila Evans at HBO,
Hmm.
and she shot it down. It
Mm.
was just
Yeah.
like it just wasn't gonna, fly with them. And she was a really big deal for Michael. She tapped into Michael. He tapped into her with being able to create all the half-hour programs we did. Ira Sleeps Over. Uh, Abel's Island was Western Woods, but
Yep.
the Red Shoes, Ira Sleeps Over. Oh my God. Just like a whole slew of stuff that we were, like I said, churning out. In these half hour shows. Um, was it Marzipan Pig? That was in it. Whitewash, of course, was
Yeah.
that was another story that came up that Michael like made into a half hour. And
Hmm.
just Talking Eggs. What else did we have? The Nightingale. Yeah, no, it was just like there was a time there when New York animation like literally dried up. There was nothing going on. I think Broadcast Arts, it was in between when Broadcast Arts became Curious Pictures, I think,
Oh,
but MTV was not a
there.
thing
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah.
And everybody was just, and Michael was the only gig in town. And we kind of were a little cocky about that in certain ways. Um, but I mean, not in a mean sense. It was more of like we felt like we were important. We were doing something big. Um, but I mean, that was the one problem with the studio, was that we never really took a lot of commercial work. That we tried to get Michael to do that, but he felt that because of the higher budgets and whatever the corporation that was running the production company, whatever, that he would lose his creative ability to tell the stories he wanted to tell.
Mhm.
Um, because I think when he did Red Shoes, uh, I think in the original script, the girl, the main character, which I can't remember her name, her brother is sick,
Yeah.
and Michael was like, he's HIV positive. He has AIDS, and HBO was like, it's fine. He can be sick, but you can't say that he has AIDS.
Hmm.
It was that kind of garbage that was
Yeah.
prevalent at the time. Um, so we tried to sneak in things in different other films and stories that like no one will ever like know that they were in there. Um, I mean, a marzipan pig. I mean, my God, that deals with death, life, resurrection, death, life, resurrection. It's just, and it's just crazy. I just going through the list of all the films we worked on and going, my God, it's just an eclectic smorgasbord of, I don't know what the hell we were doing. I mean, I just look back at it and going, I can't believe we
We
did
got away
this.
with
I
it.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, Fats Waller Jazz Time Tales. I don't know
Oh,
if
it's
you're
another one of my
familiar.
favorites. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. He told me it was like what we were working on, and I was like, I didn't know he played the organ at the local theater Palace of the Silent Movies, and he was like, yeah, when he was a kid, and we're like, oh my God, this should be live action, but we're like, no, this is better as an
Yeah.
animated film. So, but yeah, well, oh, my another side that's not sidetrack, but
You're just answering
I
questions.
was
Like it's
answering
fine.
a question.
It's fine. Yeah.
Um, the film Ira Sleeps Over, which that was obviously all done in house, and we had Michael was farming because animation was just like we have to get this thing out quickly. So Michael called in John Dilworth, who had worked
Yep.
with Michael previously, and Doug Compton, I think, was also doing animation. And I think Steve Dovas and who else? Oh God, there was another animator. Oh, was his name Marty something? I'll have to look at the credits if he's even in there. Some of the credits on some of the Michael's films are not. Some of the credits on IMDb are not correct. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, so there's holes and stuff. Some people should be on there, some people shouldn't be on there. But but so yeah, so with Ira Sleeps Over, Michael was he was banging out scenes, like I said, animating in pen. Um, and there's this beautiful sequence in the film. I think it's probably the best thing he ever animated. Um, and when we talk about animation, you don't talk about like, oh, it's amazing. This character's like leaping 40 feet in the air and spinning around and, laser blasts and whatever. It's like, yeah, there's a place for that. But true animation is when you lose yourself as a person, a viewer, and you're watching these drawings. And like, let's be fair, these are like real hand drawn stuff. And it has an emotional resonance. Like that drawing becomes alive. Um, and Michael did a sequence in the film where it's about this little boy who's going to have a sleepover. He's going over to his friend's house, but he's terrified because the only way for him to go to sleep is he's got to have his teddy bear with him. And he's afraid that his friend's going to make fun of him. His sister makes fun of him. His parents kind of like chuckle about it, but they're like, yeah, don't worry about it. So this kid just obsesses and like is so freaked out that his friend's going to just destroy him. So there's a scene where Michael animated with Ira is in the kitchen and he has his teddy bear and he sets it down. He goes to the fridge, he pulls out a jar of peanut butter, a loaf of bread, a jar of jelly, and he's making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And Michael has this like kind of walleye stare on the kid. And it's just this beautiful, maybe it's 2 minutes or a minute and a half of animation, no cutaways. And you sit there and you're like, I'm listening to this kid talk and I'm looking at the drawing and you're like, oh my God, this kid's angst is like, it's just too much. And it's like getting to me. Um, and I told him years later at a party, drunk, to have only strength basically to like say something really personal to him, but just to say to him, my God, that sequence is like one of the best things I've ever seen animated. And he just looked at me and they did the typical Michael like side grin and me just explaining to him. And I felt like, oh, I got what he was making on the screen, what he was projecting onto the screen himself. Because that's what an animator is just you're an actor and it's just an extension. It's a puppet. It's um, a marionette. I mean, anything, any type of, hand puppets, but it's an extension of that. Um, and I really think that Michael bled through into that character. I mean, he did that with a lot of his other stuff, but I know there was something very personal going on in there.
Mhm.
Um, and I mean, the thing with Michael was he was very he played his cards close to his chest. He didn't want anybody knowing about the financial hardships that were going on. Um, he would get frustrated and angry because either a deal fell through or they said, "Oh, you have 12 weeks, but now you have 10 weeks to do this," and oh, there's no more money. Um, Not until you deliver half the film. And he'd keep that from us, and he'd get bitter and angry and get short with us. And but there were people there that some people were like, I'm staying until 9 o'clock until this thing is done. Um, and then there were others that were just like, booked it and they just like left.
Mm.
So, but I mean, yeah, but I mean, it's never. I worked at MTV. I worked at Curious Pictures. I worked for Jumbo. I worked for Mo Willems on his Sheep in the Big City and Offbeats, Scholastic, Sesame. Sesame was the only, out of all the jobs I had, Sesame came the closest to what it was experiencing, like what it was working for Michael. It
Mhm.
had You had the writers, you had creators, you had animators, designers, and art directors and whatnot. And it was a team. It was a machine. Everyone knew their part and knew how to do it well. And that's what Michael's place was like. But it had a warmth about it. That there were a lot of other studios in the corporate level. I mean, granted they had their fun, they had their share of fun, um, but it didn't come anywhere close to the freedom that Michael gave you to create. And I think he did that with animators, certainly did that with designers, writers, and whatnot. And I think that was the thing of you you weren't getting paid a lot of money,
Yep, yep, yep.
but you had the freedom to do anything you wanted to do. And you weren't being told to change it because, um, I mean, there's some things, working in the children's animation business, you get these lists from lawyers. Oh, characters, the children can't lean out windows and wave to friends. There has to be guardrails in the windows. And oh, if they're riding their bike, it has to have
Gotta wear a
training
helmet.
wheels. Got to wear a helmet. Got to have
Yep.
elbow pads, knee pads. Even oh my God, there was a thing where like they wanted a chin strap and a mouth guard, and I was like, you got to be kidding me, because I'm a child of the '70s. So it was like you left your house at 9 o'clock in the morning, your mom didn't see you until 6. And you didn't have to check in with anybody. You didn't have to do anything that required parental, supervision. You're off like running around, riding 2 miles into town, crossing traffic, just, being a hellion, whatever. You I mean, not disrupting and hurting anybody, just being a kid. Um, so yeah, so it's that type of thing. So anyway,
Point is
um,
S&P sucks.
yeah, 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 um, yeah. I mean, I was at Michael's until '95. Work fizzled out. Um, he didn't have anything to really keep anybody on, and I left. I went to Masako Kamiyama was working at Jumbo, and I got a call from her. She's a production supervisor, amazing draftsman, amazing artist, but she chose the path of production coordinator. Um, Absolutely amazing person. Um, and she called me up and said, "Hey, there's a job here at Jumbo. Do you want it? You should take it because it's a great get. I'll get you in." So she got me in, and then I went over to Curious, worked for Mo, and then went off to MTV, and then it was I call it the ping pong years. I would winter in Sheep in the Big City downtown for Mo, and then in the spring and summer I'd go to MTV
Yeah.
to Viacom. So it was just like that. And then it was like a week off, maybe, or 2 weeks. I can't remember what, but it was like 2 or 3 years of that, just back and forth, back and forth. And then 9/11 happened. And
Oh,
then, and then that's when it was just like, yeah, everything just came to a grinding halt. And no one was hiring. I lost a job when Jumbo became Cartoon Pizza, and I lost a job to work on I think it was Stanley was the show. And I was like, oh man, what the hell am I gonna freaking do? And I called up Michael and I said, hey, let's have lunch, let's have a cup of coffee. Met him downtown and started talking. And he was like, what are you working on? I says, I'm not working on anything actually. I'm actually with my hands out, like my hat out, like, do you have anything? And he did. He had a few little things. And I think he had the John Dilworth Courage the Cowardly Dog
yeah.
episode with Courage's origin. And he asked Michael to design and animate that. So Michael animated it. I did all the backgrounds on watercolor paper and Prismacolor, and we knocked out that. And then Michael got not evicted so much as the landlord was going to jack the rent up. It was prime real estate, fourth floor. Um, I don't know how much footage of the studio was. I mean, it went from the front to the back of the building, I think. And so the landlord was it was a little weird. He was like, "Oh, well, I have this space in on Bedford you could go to." So we went, and Michael was just like, "I just want to move. I just want to get my stuff out of here, get it into a space, and just start working on this stuff." So was it? I think it was Steve McQuinian and I, like, we started packing up stuff on the boxes, and we moved to Bedford, and was there for was a couple of years. And once again, work fizzled out. He had uh, he had a young animator out of Chicago named Matt Clinton, who actually wrote Michael, and Michael liked his work and said, "Hey, if you come to New York, I'll give you a job." Um, and so Matt became like the new guy, the new favorite, whatever you want to go going to call it. But he worked on the stuff from, was it 96? No, not 96. 2002. Yeah, 2002, 2003, because I was already gone from then. So so they worked on stuff through that, and that's when Michael was going more digital instead
Mhm.
of obviously film, because I mean all the camera people just, that whole thing disappeared.
Yeah.
So but the technique that he it's so not so much he invented it, but he perfected it, of taking acetate and then gluing the drawings with rubber cement, which I'm probably, when I'm in my 70s, I'm going to have severe nerve damage from the fumes from, one, the markers, but
Mhm.
two, the rubber cement that we were breathing in. You couldn't wear a mask. The masks were like, you had them on your face, and it just was encumbrance, and you couldn't breathe. Um, but yeah, so we'd glue one side with the paper, and then glue apply rubber cement to the area of the acetate. Then you use your peg bars to register everything down, rub it down, and then the next process was taking an X-Acto knife. And I mean, you had like surgeon skills to be able to cut out just the paper and not the acetate, um, and just be able to do that over and over and over, and do it quickly enough and cleanly enough that we using the markers and pencil and whatnot, you could get that like textured look. That was kind of like our signature thing.
Mhm.
Um, and it was always evolving. Each film he wanted to try to do different things, different types of markers, different types of treatments, some different textured papers. I think we did some stuff for um, not Faith Hubley, Emily Hubley, when she did a series of films like The Girl with Her Head Coming Off, or something like that. And it was very whimsical and whatnot. But we used different types of craft papers and stuff like that. So um, yeah, I'm rambling. So,
No, no,
so
this is
no.
perfectly fine. That is the point. I want as
Sorry,
much info
sorry.
as possible. Like
Uh,
rambling is good.
tell me stuff that like you really, really want to know if I haven't even told you about it yet. Or so.
No, I mean, for the most part, yeah. Like again, most of the questions are directed like, what was it like working in a studio? And I'm glad to hear because my interview Laura, she mostly said the same thing too. Like it was a very
Mhm.
creatively nourishing place to work, and all different people like different walks would come in. You don't know how long they would stay, but like
Yeah,
you get like
yeah.
different unique kind of people.
And then there would be like, oh my God, this person's been here 2 years sitting next to me. I remember when Dave Levy came in to the studio. He's all bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. He had just graduated from SVA, was a big fan of Howard Beckerman, but he came in for an interview and he showed us his reel and stuff. And it was charming. It had this really very simple story, very simple thing. And he came back and he had seen some Michael's films, recent films, and he's sitting at the back table with Michael and me in the morning, and we're having our coffee. That was always the thing with Michael's studio. You'd come in the morning, and it would be just kind of a bull session in the back. Hey, what did you see over the weekend? What did you watch on TV? Did you go anywhere? Did you do anything? So when Dave started, he he came in and he was like, "So over the weekend, I watched these films," and he listed five of them. And then he takes out a pad, and then he's like, "I have notes." So I was thinking, well, this is it. And Mike and I are sitting there with our coffee, and we're like, "See, I'm going to use it." Like, who the f is this guy? Like, what? Like, what? You, you don't even have a job here yet, and you're like telling us notes. But we were like, Michael, after he left, Michael was like, "So what do you think?" And I says, "You got to hire him. You just got to hire him because this kid is passionate about working for you, and he knows his stuff." So yeah, I mean, it was that kind of thing. And then Dave was there for a while. He left, and there were people there. There short time. Matt Sheridan was there for a short time. Adrian Urquidez was there for a while. Yeah, people came and went. Uh, I came in when that group, which was Liz Seidman and um, yeah, there was just a host of people that they had moved from the other studio uptown, and then just things change. People get jobs elsewhere, they
Mhm.
get pulled away, um, and then it was like the new batch of people would come in, and then it would be a new dynamic. Um, Less animator heavy, more production, background kind of, things. For me, it was like wearing many different hats. I mean, there was a time where I'm running, I'm getting supplies, I'm getting stuff at the camera, I'm getting artwork to somebody who needs to do coloring. And then I'm also like building mats we did a Crest commercial, and one of the things was they like this like glitter effect on they were like jelly characters, toothpaste characters. So I was cutting out all these black flint masks. I was poking holes in, and then when it was shot under camera, it was a double exposure. So there was one pass with the animation, and then there was another one with just these mats, and the light was coming up from below. And then Gary would use I don't know if it's a polarizing filter or star filter, so it would cause the light to reflect off. And then we'd have this stuff sparkling on and stuff like that. I think once I got a little too carried away, and Michael like looked at the footage and he was just like, "What the hell did you do, man? They look like they're on fire." And I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." I was like I'm poking holes in this thing, and I'm like da, 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 trying to like get the thing done. And he's like, because literally he came up to me and he was just like, "Do you have those mats done?" And I was like, da, 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 da. "Yep, I'm all done." Here you go. Yeah. So yeah, it was nuts. It was like controlled chaos at some points. Um, we like I said, it was you worked really hard during the day and then in part of the evening, and then you'd go out and vent and drink and play pool and go see films, go see shows. Um, During those times, and was I mean, Asifa was just amazing way back when, because it was more of like just a group of people getting together. It wasn't like this like thing of like, oh, it's you're getting together for an award thing. It was just like a bunch of people who loved animation just to be able to get together and hang and stuff. Um, yeah. And then knowing giants like Tisa David. And I mean, I knew I knew her before Michaels. No, after Michaels. I worked at Ink Tank for Bleckman for a little bit, and she was still there. Um, and she saw me there, and she was just like, "Could you get Jason to punch paper for me? He's the only one who can do it for me." So, and I mean, John Canemaker used to come in. Um, I remember when Richard Williams had his book out. He was in New York City, and Michael, they were going out to dinner, and Michael's like, come along. I'm like, come and have dinner with you and Richard Williams? Yes, please. I don't think I ordered something and I hardly ate. I was just like listening to the conversation the whole time, and then like he turned to me and he was just like, "So I know you're going to ask me about Thief and the Cobbler. So whatever it is, you have got one question." So I was just like, how did you animate that whole ending sequence and with the machines and all that? And he was just like, "Because time. It took a lot of time to do that." Next question. So, but yeah, no. Yeah, like I said, you'd never learn this in school. There's no book you could read. There's no video you could watch. Um, yeah, I mean, it literally was. I should have been paying technically for the privilege of working there. I mean, I could have left and got a higher paying job. I could have went to MTV. I could have gone to Nickelodeon. I didn't want to. I wanted to stay there, um, which in hindsight, I look back at it and going, maybe I should have left. But then I'm like, well, then I wouldn't be the animator I am or the designer I am today. So I always constantly refer to like when I think about it, I'd look at something or like what would Michael think? What would Howard Beckerman think? Um, Howard was a big influence on me in the early parts of my career, just because, well, he was my first teacher, and you never forget your first animation teacher. Um, so, but you pick up little things here and there, and then, like I said, you can't get that when you're working remotely. You do,
Yeah.
and that was the thing when I worked at Sesame years later. That you're sitting next to an animator, you're sitting next to another designer, and you'd go and go, "Hey man, you got a second? Take a look at this. Does this bother? Do you see anything weird in this that's throwing you off?" And they look at it and go, "Well, it's this." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, good. I saw that, and I didn't want to like admit it, but thank you for pointing it out. I'm going to change it." And be like, "Well, what if you tried this?" And you can collaborate with somebody, and now it's a different thing. You submit your work, maybe you get like some written notes. You don't have like a one-on-one, and that's really missing from, I think, a lot of the studios that the works coming out. I think there's a lot of good stuff out there, and there's some stuff that was good that kind of like, it's not so good anymore. It should have ended 3 seasons ago. Rick and Morty. um, but um, but like I'm a big fan of Gindi Tarkovsky.
Oh, yes,
I
yes.
mean, I can't wait for Primal 3 to come out. When the first season came out, I was like, this is completely special. I mean, Samurai Jack was special. Hell, um, even before that, but this is like on a whole new level. So, but it's surprising. I talk to people, I talk to actual
Mhm.
animators, and they don't watch Primal. They're watching something else, and I'm like, God,
I
it's a
wanted to.
generational thing. But
I wanted to
anyway,
ask, would you say what's your favorite? Because like Tarkovsky is like another animation idol of mine. What's your favorite show of his?
oh, what of his favorite shows? I mean, I like all of them. I mean, I
Okay,
do love Samurai Jack, and I
yeah,
do love I guess we would call it the final season, that he was allowed to be a little more graphic with, and I liked how he tied it up. Um, but Primal, there's just something about it that, I mean, the layouts are just like, my son usually says like, "Oh, it's chef's
Chef
kiss.
Kiss. Yep.
It's perfect. It's flawless." Um, it's just the fact that there's no dialogue in 99.9% of the show, the season, and it's just, what is it from that first season, the woman that he meets, Mira. It's all he says, and it's almost like with what's his name doing I am Groot. It's like I am Groot, but he says it with different inflection and blah, blah, but just this character going Mira, Mira, like just like the passion from that character. It's just so much fun. I really wish he got to do his Popeye. I think that was a really a blown
Yeah.
opportunity. I remember seeing pencil tests for it or some finished stuff, and I was like, Jesus, this is amazing. Um, I liked Fix, but I didn't love it. Um, I have some problems with it. It's like it's a little too much like in your face, headbanging. Um, I mean, I did like John Kay's stuff before all the controversy. Um, who did Foster's Imaginary
Greg
Home?
McCracken.
McCracken with,
Yeah.
I mean, Powerpuff Girls. I mean, yeah, and then Johnny, was it Johnny Blaze? Not Johnny Blaze. John,
Johnny Bravo. Johnny Bravo.
Johnny Bravo. Yeah, Johnny Bravo. Hillenberg's SpongeBob.
Yeah.
I mean, just meeting him up in Ottawa. This was years ago, um, and he he like basically told us about his pitch, and I mean, it's just amazing. But like how they set up their storyboard artists and story ideas, they throw little story ideas into a bucket.
Yeah. Outlines.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and just like, yeah, that's how it should be. That's like how John Kay like went about doing certain things. It was like layouts are a thing, but your models don't have to be necessarily on model all the time. And it was just like this free thinking kind of thing. So sometimes stuff written on in a note, in a script, is not going to translate into animation. And it's a lot of the great ideas come out right from an animator or a storyboard artist, um, to be able to like come up with these gags,
Yeah.
um, and keep it fresh and exciting. And I mean, I've seen all of SpongeBob and I've seen the movies, and it's like they hold on to certain elements that are just like, oh my God, this is just so much fun. Um, God, what other shows? Um, I love Super Jail because I just love that style of animation. And Aaron Oliblick's stuff is just amazing. I really wish I could. That's one studio I wish I could have worked for or worked for in the future. So yeah, no, uh, yeah, more questions.
What you were saying about like out like using like kind of that spontaneous outline storytelling.
Mm,
Yeah. There's still like a lot of like there's a few cartoons that still do that, but it's still just just like there's just some things you just can't like really put into a script. It has to come out organically off the cuff by the person themselves. And
mm-hmm,
like
mm-hmm.
and obviously I know like every single cartoon shouldn't be produced that way, but normally the cartoons I
No,
do like have that sort of like it doesn't have to be strictly outline based, but it can be that room for like improvisation, a little loose. You don't have to be tied down or like restricted
Yeah.
to the script. It's good. And isn't that how Michael Sporn's films were? Well, he got pretty loose with the script from what I read.
Well, yeah. I mean, I remember like Maxine would do a lot of well, she was writing most of the scripts along with Michael. But I remember when things were like locked in, and then there were a number of times where the script went to Tisa, and
Yeah.
she would storyboard, and uh, yeah, no, it was pretty wild. And there'd be a part where it was like, oh, so she puts on the shoes, and the
The red
shoes take
shoes,
her.
yeah.
Yeah, she goes flying out the door and into the world and spinning and all this stuff. And it's like maybe not even a paragraph of like, oh, she sees this, and this, or Little Match Girl. I mean, there was always or just like a flow sometimes with some of the stories. Little Match Girl originally was going to be, it was a play being performed by a small production company or a school or whatnot. And originally it was going to be Guilford Godfrey was going to be narrating the film, and Michael actually recorded him. So it was just like, oh, there's this little girl, and she's out in the cold. I can Who lets their child out in the cold
Such a
selling matches? And he was just like going off the script, and it was like, all right, so anyway, so she's in the cold and she's watching all these people eating food, and they're dressed in warm clothes and they have gifts, and she has nothing, and she, like, there were these parts where I think Ray Cosman did some storyboards. He had the main character grabbing the camera and shaking the camera, like, can you believe this? And it was
oh
so
God.
funny. We were like dying. It was brilliant. And Michael brought it to HBO, and HBO was like, yeah, that's it's a homeless girl. We can't make fun of her. And they're like, we're not making fun of her. We're it's like we're making not light of a situation, but we're trying to show you like people are suffering, but we're trying to do it in this way to, to overshoot, not like beat you over the head with things. And they were like, no, you gotta pick another person to do the voice. So Michael went in the opposite direction and got F. Murray Abraham to read the story. And he read it more like a Godfather, not Godfather, but like a grandfatherly kind of way, that he was reading the story to his grandchildren or a group of children for in a library or something. And the film took a whole different tone. So yeah, when you're talking about organic shifts and scripts, I mean, it just, yeah, there was a lot of that with the poetry films, the Nonsense and Lullabies that I worked on. Those two films, we had all these short little clips of, here's The Boy Who Cried Wolf, and or here's Augustus Soup, and here's Wink and Blink and Nod. Anyway, there was a whole slew of these, and then we're sitting there going, how are we going to put all these little things together? There's got to be some thread that carries them through. So Michael came up with, I think it was Michael or it was Steve Dovas, to animate these segments. And one of them was guys driving in a car. So it's just a steering wheel and a hand, and you're the viewer, you're in the car. And all this crazy stuff drives by the car. There's one point where it's underwater. So we had these things, and then the person was hitting the radio station. So the story is being told through the radio. This was not scripted. This was
Yeah.
just an animator was given the freedom to like just express themselves, and just be aware you're doing a transition. So we're going from this to this. And so yeah, so I mean, he gave, like I said, he gave that freedom to people to be able to do things. Um, there was an animator by the name of Rodolfo DiMaggio
Oh
who
yeah.
came in. It was Nightingale, I think, just before that. Literally 1 week after starting, amazing draftsman, absolutely, from Brazil, São Paulo, absolutely amazing. I think he storyboarded the sequence in Attack of the Clones, all that battle stuff on Geonosa, and he storyboarded that whole sequence in like a week. It was just insane. Um, he started working at Michael's. He needed a green card. Michael sponsored him. And 1 week after he started there, he broke his hand on a skateboard. So he's got this, he
Ooh,
comes in, he's got a
yeah.
cast. So Michael's like, oh my God, he's got to, I hired him to animate, I think it was Pokey Little Puppy or it was some film that we're working on. And Rodolfo was started drawing with his left hand. And he was equally, if not better, to be able to do that. But like once the cast came off, he was like the machine for animation. Like he could knock out stuff. He would build models and then shoot it on the video camera in the back, and then he would create rotoscoping. So he would rotoscope objects turning like a car driving in perspective and then turning past the camera. I mean, he was always taking it to like the next level. He would hand me off his drawings and I would either do in betweens and clean up. Um, but that was like the process of like there were times where you weren't thinking anymore. It's just like you were not so much on autopilot, but you just allowed your muscle memory to like kick in and um and just turn out work, day after day, week after week, how much footage we finished. Um and like I said, we were saying about earlier with the pipeline, everybody knew their strengths and weaknesses, and there were people that animators could color, they could cut out, they could glue things. That would be towards the end of the production, or if that we had another thing like waiting in the wings, they'd start storyboarding or doing layout. So, and then yeah, so it was that type of work environment that was just it was insane. Um, but looking back on it, fun. I mean, if I could go back and do it again, yeah, I would do the same thing again. So I don't have any regrets about what like should I have been there or did I do this or that or I don't know. It's just and then the people that you work with, they become lifelong friends.
Hmm.
Um, People move away, people die, people get married, they move away, it's this and that. And I mean, that's just like anything. But animation in New York City, there was that time there was in that late 90s. It was it was fun. I mean, you described it as like it was like these tribes. You had different tribes, and people were like nomadic, and they would travel from one studio to another. So somebody who was your supervisor would now be under you at this other production, or
Yeah.
it would be like you're both underneath this new guy who doesn't know what the hell they're doing, and then you would go to this other place, and everything would be like clicking just right. Um, but yeah, it was pretty crazy. And I guess I don't know, California, they always look down on us in New York City. Well,
Really?
there was this thing of, oh, you guys do the little kid stuff. That's what New York was really known for, minus Beavis and Butthead. But for the most part, it was like, oh yeah, Sesame Street and Nickelodeon, and there was like this. That's like California was like, hey, features. We do features for you guys just do little TV show stuff. Um, but because I knew people that went out there to try to start their career off, and they had a hard time breaking in because it
Mm.
was like there were a lot of barriers, um, and that was just I don't know. It's just to this day I mean there are a lot of people I don't know what's going on. I know some people that are at Pixar, and I mean I would have loved to have worked at Pixar, but one of those things was the people that I know that are working at Pixar, they called them up and said, "Do you want to work at Pixar?" It wasn't like they submitted their work
Mm.
and they got lucky and they got in. So it's always like they're looking for the cream of the crop, the you know top people. Um, yeah, I knew some people from Jumbo that went out there. Bill Prentice, or I'm sorry, Bill Pressing, who's at Pixar. Enrico, who did he's doing a, oh God, what is he did the film about the Mer Boys. Yeah. And then he did an animated short the with the moon and the different generations, a grandfather, father, and a son, and they climb up to the moon and they're like sweeping the moon. Um, Enrico turned me on to Miyazaki. I knew about Miyazaki for a long time, but not the capacity that Enrico knew him, and like I just my mind was blown at like how good of a draftsman Enrico was, that he mimicked a lot of Miyazaki techniques and stuff, draws like him. But then that led me to like watch everything that Miyazaki ever did. And I guess if I were to pick somebody that I would love to like sit down and I would gladly start smoking again after 20 years of not having a cigarette and have a cigarette with Miyazaki and just sit there and just talk about whatever. Um, Plants, the ocean. There's a great documentary series on what is it? It was a Korean channel. They did a four-part series about him during Ponyo, and that's just like you really get a hands-on like this is as close as you're gonna get, man, to being able to get inside his head. But I mean, I love his philosophy. And the strange thing is, he really reminds me of Michael. That's like the element, just like the thought process and like a deeper understanding of like, because Michael was into like musicals and soundtrack. We had a common thing that we like soundtracks. So like he'd play something and I go, oh okay, yeah, I didn't see that film. Oh, Hans Zimmer. Oh, okay. I've never heard of his stuff. And then he'd play, you know, and then the next day I'd come in with something and he'd go, oh, what's that? So I'm like, oh, um, it's a, anyway, it's just, I was get name musicians off the top of my head, but I mean, it was like our common like link up was that. Um, but Michael would see he would take things outside of animation where there's so many animators now that take from other animators. And I know Howard used to say this to me, and he would say this to his students. Don't, yeah, you can look at all the animation you want, shows and TVs and TV shows and movies, but go out, get in a relationship with somebody, get a job that you work a 9 to 5. Um, Go out to eat at a restaurant that you've never eaten at before. Go to a musical, go to an opera, uh, like go see live music. Not just rock and roll, but like go see jazz, go see country music, go see poetry readings. It was like this idea of like use those things as your well of that you're going to take from.
Inspiration. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, my God, this just the worst thing ever is when you look at someone's portfolio and it's filled with dragons and unicorns. And I mean, we used to make that joke, and not to belittle people that like dragons and unicorns. It's just like you need to like draw from life. You need to go out there and you need to like observe and see the natural world and document it. You don't have to be realistic, but just document it and have it, you know, have it have, you know, a feeling of an observation.
Mhm.
Um, Michael and Howard used to talk about like, you know, look at that old man walking, and then look at that old man walking, and then look at that old woman walking, and she's got bags, and just like, and just study those types of movements. I mean, that's like so important, and I think that's some of that's missing. And then there's these traps that animators would fall into. Um, God, who animated Little Mermaid? Uh, Glenn Keane, right? I
Yeah.
think it was Glenn Keane. Um, Michael like went off on a tirade once. We had seen the film and we were like, "Oh yeah, no, it's fun. The score is great." And he's like, "Yeah, the score is great, but man, I wanted to throw a rock at the screen if
Ah,
she, like 17 times she's doing this with her hair, pulling it back, you know."
like with the Little Mermaid. I only watched it like once or twice when I was like really, really, really young, but like I see people
Mhm.
talking about it all the time naturally. And like the thing that like obviously there's like the stock elements that like the stock motion that puts me off. Stock movements like but it's just
Yep.
like when I look at the character's expression, it's so funny because it's just like why do they have like all of those wrinkles? Why does she have like all those skin folds around her when she's just like a mermaid? What's the point? What's the reason? It's just
Yeah.
visual
Yeah.
noise.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but when you said things about because when I interviewed Laura, she did mention something because like he there's this film called like The Tale of the Dancing Frog, and there's a
Mm.
scene I think he animated where it's just a woman brushing her hair, and I think the
Yep.
quote was I think the quote I think I have it here. Yeah, he said himself that like I always thought a woman brushing her hair was such a simple, beautiful gesture, and that perfectly tracks with like you just what you just told me about like looking at people. It's like oh look how that person walks, look how that old man
Yeah.
walks, how old lady walks, just like
Yeah.
taking from real life,
Yeah.
and like you
Because characters like talking like, hey, well, oh well, hmm, It's like
yeah very
ah.
Disney yeah very
And
Disney stock acting.
and the one biggest sin you could ever do is like having a character thinking, hmm, scratching.
Yeah.
And he told me about what was it? It was a bear it was an animated bear thing. I don't know if it was Tex Avery. It was oh god, I think it was Tex Avery, but it was a bear character, and he wants honey. He sees somebody eating honey, or there's honey off screen or something, and he's standing there, and Michael said, he says it's beautiful. He says he puts his hands on his chest, and he's just doing this, and he's looking at this honey, and you're like, oh my god, you're right. That's another way of like, what is he's thinking, or just like like rubbing their hand, or the palm of their hand, or just something else that just I don't know. John Dilworth did a great scene in Ira Sleeps Over with the two characters. They have this big song number, and Ira's sitting there, and he's like, yeah, he's sitting with his feet forward, and he's just like rubbing his hands like on, and he's like anxious. So he's got this little thing going on, and they're like,
Yeah.
that's great. Just another way of just expressing a character's angst, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that missing of the observation of the natural world, which is the secret of animation, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's what you have to tap into. Um, and I know you have a deadline, and I know people have to get something out in a certain way, and it has to be familiar, and all these like things. But I mean, okay, so I went to go see 2 years ago. I went to go see Flow. There was a special screening of Flow in the city. I think it was a French consulate. I can't remember, but I can't. I for life of me cannot pronounce the director's name. But he was there. Saw the film. My jaw was on my lap. I've got tears in my eyes. Have you seen the film Flow?
Oh no, I want to though. I want to, but I haven't
Yeah,
yet.
to put it on your list.
Gotcha.
Um, and for animal movement, it's 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 unprecedented. It's absolutely breathtaking how the animals act like real animals would, but yet there's an element of a little bit of human in there, just little character things, but there's no dialogue in the film, so they're not talking to each other. It's not fart jokes, which are just I'm sorry. I probably, if people hear what I have to say
What?
about, well, I mean, all right. So, so a film like The Wild Robot, which people were screaming that is, oh, it's like Iron Giant, but it's on an island and it's animals instead of little boy, and it was so obnoxious to me. It was all this like in your face
Oh,
jokes, fart jokes, and just you name it, and just everyone's sarcastic, and they are monologuing left and right, and there's literally a point in the film, a half hour into the film, where the characters are explaining what happened to them in the first half hour of the film to another character. Now, I don't know about you, but I've watched the first half of the film, and I know what happened. You don't have to repeat this same situation over again. um, that's something that I liked about Flow, is that you didn't treat the audience like they were imbeciles, that you were talking down to them. that you were speaking to them about like, hey, here's the situation. This is what the animals are going through. They're reacting to their environment and each other, and it's natural and it's compelling, and it doesn't have to end with like, oh, you're just like your father. And they're just this everything's for yucks. And when every character's acting that way, then it's just a bunch of cacophony of noise. That's just there's no harmony to it at all. Um, I just saw. I think the film that should win Best Feature this year is Little Amelie. Beautiful film, absolutely amazing little biographical piece. I forget the name of the author that they adapted the story from, but it was a Japanese French director uh, co-production. They worked for, I think they worked on the film for like 4 or 5 years, getting money here and there, working on it, but absolutely gorgeous to look at and beautifully animated. Beautiful story about identity. Um, it's about this little girl growing up in Japan, and her family is either Dutch. I think their father's an ambassador, works for um, the embassy or something like that. And this little girl identifies as Japanese through her nanny, who's teaching her customs, music, art, um, etiquette, all these, and then how this character, this little girl, sees her identifies as Japanese, while she's this girl from her parents are from Denmark.
Mhm.
So and after watching that film, I felt the same, like this is so special, like I did with Flow. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know they have a short list now of the animated films. I mean, I watch everything. I watch all the nominated. I watch the long list. I watch the short list. Um, I sometimes I reach out to the animators and I said, "Man, I'm rooting for you like 110%." Um, I'll post it on LinkedIn, like things that I've seen and things that are worthy of like being looked at. Um, so I mean I that's I guess the level of how I keep in touch with certain things. I mean,
Mhm.
in the changing world now that I live in, now I'm starting to do stuff like pitch decks for people for their films, documentaries, doing little things. I'm learning all this like YouTube stuff about how to posting thumbnails, and somebody wants to also like have videos that you have to pay for a pay service to see their what they're working on. So I'm helping with somebody like that. So currently I'm not working on a quote unquote show or anything like that. I've adapted to do other things. um, I still like experimenting. I like using Photoshop as my tool of choice. um, I like doing digital collages. um, I take a lot of artwork that is from public domain
Mhm.
sites, like stuff that's you know 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 years old. um, I found a bunch of with the etchings of Yellowstone National Park. There must be like 45 of these things, and I lost to antiquity. I don't think there's even a name on them anymore. I don't know who commissioned them, but I mean they're they're public domain. They're free. So taking snippets of things and objects and putting them against each other, that's kind of like the things that I like to do at the moment. I dabbled in some uh, role playing game stuff, illustration, layouts, and things like that. Um, but I mean, now the the role playing game world is kind of like fizzled out. It got really big during COVID. I mean, people were playing either in home or they were playing video conference and stuff. But that's a whole industry that's just
Yeah.
changing, and of course, the dreaded 100-pound elephant in the room, AI. It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
I've had so many arguments with people. I'm at viciously against it, and I mean, there's some elements of like, okay, So using Photoshop and you have a background that is like this wide, but yet you need to be this wide. Well, in the past, I've copied and pasted and built out backgrounds, but now with using the tool of generating an element of across, like let's say sky, or it's a safari plane or a forest or a desert, then I can see that being a helpful tool, because it's not really generating something completely from scratch. Um, but just the fact that also it's like it harms the environment, and that you're paying for a service to
Yeah.
get a randomized. Somebody made a really good point. They said you took a bunch of food, vegetables, your stock, and meat, and you chopped it all up in a blender and you poured it out onto the table, and that's an AI generated image,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, well, I want these chopped, I want the chopped celery to be more refined, or I want it bigger. Well, I can't make it bigger. I have no control over that. Um, I I will go off on this for like 2 days if you don't take if you don't interrupt me.
Yeah, but yeah,
So
yeah, because the
yeah.
whole thing was well, it links to what the convo we were having before about the importance. Because like with what you were talking about, because I heard a lot of praise for the wild robot, and like even the trailers, I was just kind of, and like maybe I'll watch it someday. I did see clips of little Emily. I want to I'll check that out someday too. But but Sporn's films, when like you were talking about all the things you don't like about how characters talking about these very specific things or characters
Hmm.
regurgitating the same points, and Sporn's films are they're not like that. They're not like that at all. They feel very free flowy and
No,
organic. Like I could
no.
imagine, like yeah, Jazz Time Tale, another one of my favorites of Sporn's. I can very much imagine a sort of like Disney-fied version of that. Because like in the short, there's like another girl who has like a little cat with her, and like I can imagine like the
And
Disney
he's
version of that. That cat
wisecracking.
yeah, like their cat
Yeah,
would be like it'll either
yeah,
talk or like it'll just be her 24/7 and it'll just like be with her for the entire movie. But in the short, it's just there for like what, like a scene or two or something like that. It
yeah,
just couldn't like
yeah,
yeah, and there's like so many moments in that movie where it's just like you're just fully taking in the scenery and the setting and like very amazing backgrounds by the amazing, the illustrious, the gorgeous Bridget Thorne. Like the
yeah.
very first because like that's a very dream-like setting because it's a flashback but like it still feels very real to me. A lot of Sporn's films feel very real to me, despite the etherealness, because his observation and attention to detail. And because when people think like realism in general, they think of just like oh, like if something has to look to real life, it has to have like all these like all this detail, detail, detail,
Hmm.
detail. That's the end point for realism.
Yeah,
But then
fill
like
it, fill
Sporn's
it, fill it, fill
fill
it,
it, fill
fill
it,
it.
fill it, yeah, fill
Yeah,
it, visual
he's
noise.
got to be
That's what
doing
we need.
something. He can't just be
Yeah,
sitting
yeah.
there thinking and
No one
quiet.
would do
That no one does that. It's
that.
like,
He does
yeah, they
that.
do. They do.
Yeah.
It's just like
Mhm.
people sit in contemplation. I mean,
Mhm.
once again, we refer to the observation thing. It's just like I remember I several times I've been on the train or in the city somewhere, and you see not it's not a cliche, but you see somebody with a box in their hand, and it's got like pencils and a little plant and some other like office like desktop like trinkets, and you see this person's men and women, like their eyes are like red. They've been obviously crying like crazy. They've
Yeah.
lost clearly, like, okay, this person lost their job today. Like you can see they're going through emotional turmoil. It's a hurricane, and it's all internalized. And you can see it in their body language. And you're like, that's the type of stuff that is just that's realism. That has a resonance to it. Not a character running around smacking things, doing just doing just ridiculous things that because someone said you got to have the character doing something other than thinking about their situation. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing that makes Michael's stuff so special. I mean, Nightingale, that film with the Emperor with his desire to have this little mechanical toy. Um, Rodolfo did most of the animation in that, in the layouts for that film. Child's Garden versus Robert Louis Stevenson. I mean, it's just like it's taking these stories. I mean, he was a little boy and he was sick, and like the fantasy worlds that he would go into. Um, One of my personal favorites is The Talking Eggs, and I mean that's just like that to me is like one of Michael's lesser known films. And oh God, who was it? I forget. Oh yeah, Danny Glover does the narration for it, and it's so beautiful. But nothing compares to um, oh God, what's her name? Say I totally forget people's names, and I should because I should have done my due diligence and reference here. Let me hold on a second. Oh, yeah. Yeah, when Ruby Dee did the narration
Oh, yeah.
for um for Whitewash, and Michael said like she came into the studio, the recording place in the city, and she just sat there and she was in character. She was the grandmother, and I mean, she was old at that time, but not like she wasn't as old as what the character she was playing, and she was playing this very old woman.
Yeah.
Um, and just the warmth that comes across in her reading and her trying to comfort her granddaughter. And it's just like that's where the magic is. That's like where the um was it Vince Gilligan says that's where the sausages are made. In the back room. It's just like that's the secret sauce that that we're tapping into. Um but yeah, it's just great. There's just stuff that you would not be able to do now. A studio like Michael's could never exist in 2025,
Typically
unless
so.
Michael was alive
Well,
and he
yeah, that
was.
too.
And I mean that would be the big thing. But I mean he would. I really believe he would have made it work in some way. And even think about the idea of like, well, now you have YouTube, you've got other outlets to be able to express yourself. And I know he would have loved to have made little short films,
Yeah.
and then just put them out there. I know Michael was very good friends with Bill Plimpton, and Michael just was just enamored. He loved the fact that Bill was able to take short films, enter them in festivals, win a little bit of money, get a little backing, get a feature done, and then take all that money and put it back into another feature, and then just keep kind of like running that through.
That
And
cycle.
yeah, and I know he was jealous. Not, I shouldn't say jealous. He's enamored. He wishes he could have had that type of foresight, and that just comes from Bill himself. Just being able to do the hustle. You know, I'm creating, but then I can go and I can be the guy in the dealership in the front selling the car, where you get the mechanics in the back knocking out the cars, knocking out animation. Um, but yeah, I would love to have seen what he could have done now with. I think his stuff would even stand out even more in certain ways. Um, yeah. Um, Unfortunately, I didn't. I was not. I had really separated from Michael. Like, wasn't keeping in touch with him as much. Um, I got married. I had a son. I was trying to, doing work outside of that. And then my connection just, you're not around. So your worlds, your circles, you'd see him at a CIFA event and stuff. Um, and then when I found out he got sick, I was like, oh man, Michael's, uh, Michael's a tough son of a bitch. He's going to beat it. And, I remember calling him up and I got Heidi on the phone, and she told me he had passed, and I missed him by 2 days, and I was like, "Damn it!" Um, there were times where I looked at Michael as a father figure, um, and had a lot of respect for him. There were times I really hated him. I was so angry at him for not being honest and upfront about the state of the studio and like the hardships that he was going through. Um, that we there were times that we weren't getting paid. Um, but I don't have the like a bitterness and resentment towards him. I mean, there are some people out there that still just have an axe to grind. Um, and I'm like, there's no point in doing that. I'm 60 years old now. I started working at Michael's when I was, geez, 21 years old, 22. Um, you don't carry that crap around with you. Uh, you can't hold grudges. Um, it's just like pointless. Uh, yeah, I really miss him, and every time I look at a film, I'm like, I I can't see the film for just what it is.
Mhm.
All I see is I remember Masako uh, coloring that sequence. I remember Robert Marinetti drawing that character. I remember Mike Wisniewski animating that sequence. I remember Mo Willems animating a god awful scene of Ira walking downstairs with this like clubfoot walk, and it was like, oh god, we're gonna put it up there. Okay, this is fine. I mean, I worked for Mo for a time, so you know, if he hears this part, I'm sure he'll be like, oh, whatever. So, but yeah, no, I mean, I every time I see any of his films, I see Michael, I see Heidi. I mean, she did a lot of voice stuff, uh, and songs for the film. My God, I didn't even think of like Caleb Simpson, was doing the music for Michael. Um, uh, yeah, it was it was just seeing the films and seeing the people in the films, seeing their signature elements. Superato animating stuff in the lullaby films, and cursing at me for adding all these texture lines, and she had to animate it too. But I mean, it was just like, yeah, just like one person after another, and all the people that came through, um, and just like I said, seeing them in there, it's just like, wow, this is too much. So I just can't believe I worked that long, but it is what it is. So
So those are our closing words. It is what
I
it
guess so.
is.
It is what it is. No, I mean, I guess no. I guess the thing is going back to that thing of just don't just rely on animation as the one thing that you're studying.
Mhm.
Have go out, have a life. Um, this was said at Howard Beckerman's. It wasn't a eulogy. It was a memorial service, and they had an audio clip of him talking. He goes, don't sit there and read Richard Williams' book and throw tracing paper down and try to sketch Glenn Keane stuff, or what's his name who did the genie from Aladdin. I mean, just like go out, have a life, fall in love, fall in hate, uh, stumble, fall, pick yourself up, um, and take those things as your engine for creating. And be yourself, be true to yourself. I think that's the other thing that I mean, if you have a gut instinct, artists all have gut instincts, and it's like never fails. Always go with your gut. Your first impression, oh my God, this is awful. This looks like shit. Oh, okay. You know what? You're right. I'm going to start over again. I mean, having the strength to restart something is is huge. Um, but also just perseverance. But yeah, go with your gut feeling. I mean, that's the thing. Try to make friends in the business. I mean, it's dwindling, it's changing. I'd like to think that there's going to be some good that's going to come out of all this. I think we're actually going to see a lot more amazing independent films,
Yeah, yeah.
and I think Pixar and Disney and Sony. I mean Sony. I mean Spider-Verse stuff.
Yeah,
That's absolutely amazing,
that changed the
right?
game. Yeah.
Yeah, and now that's that look, and you're like, oh no, don't no, that's that thing.
Yeah,
Don't take their away
I
from
feel the
that.
same. I feel the same
So
too. because it kind of sucks because there's that part where like when something's like truly like subversive, eventually there's a point where it just becomes the norm, it just becomes aversive, and like
Yeah.
I would like take because before that everyone was just like the baseline was just like Pixar. And like, what would your take on Pixar be? And of course, you had like DreamWorks and their deviation from that was to make everything as
Hmm.
crude as possible and ugly as possible.
Yeah.
And Sony did try to like get around it, and it culminated in Spider-Verse, and like we have all these imitators, and it is better for sure. But like you
Yeah.
can't really beat the blueprint after a certain point. You gotta do something
Yeah.
different.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And it's just like, what do they say? Like, oh, I love pepperoni pizza. And then you eat another slice and another slice. And it's just like, come on. You got to put something else on there, man. Try some mushrooms.
let's get
Try
some
some onions on
sausage.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, let's get
yeah,
some
man.
some bell
Mix it up.
peppers. Come
You know,
on.
like, eat something healthy. Put broccoli
Oh, I
on
don't know
there.
about that part.
No, or it was like, hey, why don't you go the forbidden route and like do jalapenos and pineapple. See what everybody's talking about. If you don't like it, spit it out, man.
Yeah, yeah. The
But just like
pineapple.
try different things. Yeah. But
Yeah, yeah.
anyway,
But that's the point. That's the point.
yeah, that's the point. It's the journey. Um, yeah. So yeah, no, oh God, we're already going past our time, but
Hour and a
I
half.
mean, yeah,
Woo.
if you had more questions for me, I would do this again for you in a heartbeat.
Oh, okay.
Um, so
Um,
I'm just curious. I just want to know about like your background. Are you in New York or are you in where are you?
I'm
What do
not
what do
in
you
New.
do?
What I do? Dang,
What do you do? Are
that's a
you
very deep
still
and
are
philosophical.
you a student still or
Oh,
are
do I
you
look
out of
that young?
school?
No,
You
no.
do.
Oh
You
no,
do.
I'm like okay. Well, no, no, no. I don't live I don't live in New York, but it's just like I
Okay.
got so interested in it because like I'm friends with a lot of people who like who deeply love and respect Michael Sporn's work, and
Okay.
like it's kind of unfortunate because his name is overlooked by even the most hardcore of like animation fans. It truly, truly, truly is a shame because like I feel like once you like see his stuff, you're kind of like unlocking something completely new. Like there's like a brain expanding moment. I had one of those when I watched his
Yeah.
films for the first time,
Are
and
you
my
are you
connection.
are you an animator or an artist?
I can't draw a line. I can't draw a straight line to save my life.
Interesting.
But seriously,
Oh,
it's like somebody have a gun straight up to my head and told me to draw a straight line. They will pull the trigger like the very first second my pencil
so
touches the
so
paper.
so what was your first Michael Sporn film? Like what
The
is
Red
your
Shoes. I
The
watched
Red
that when I
Shoes?
was in way, way back in the fifth grade because for
Okay.
some
On
godforsaken reason.
HBO? Was
No, no,
HBO's
no,
thing?
no,
Oh,
no.
oh.
My teacher, for some godforsaken reason, we were eating in the classroom for some reason instead of the lunchroom. I don't know why. And our teacher was trying to get us something to eat, something to watch while we were eating, and she randomly put on that film. And like
Oh,
when I saw it
wow.
for the first time, I was just like I was just kind of like enamored and also creeped out by it. Like it's just a David scene when she's like dancing around in the forest and like the
Oh,
ghost of the
yeah.
shoemaker is chasing her. She has all those flashbacks. That really got under my skin as a kid.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
specific
And
scene
that
stayed
music.
with me.
Da 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 da
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
da 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 da. Yeah,
That
yeah.
the music's fun. I don't know why the music
Yeah.
scared me. It's just like, but yeah,
Oh
that
no,
specific
that
scene.
when I mean that whole sequence is beautifully animated by
Yeah.
Tisa David, but
Uh,
when they threw the music on and we were just like we were just silent and Michael was just like, yeah, this is really friggin' good. This is really good.
really, really
Um
good.
no, I mean that was like all things like lit up perfectly synced. Um
Brain expanding moment.
yeah, that's so cool. That's
Yeah.
cool. And you
And
obviously you said Just Time Tales you also loved.
yes, yes, yes.
Um,
That was a real treat. What
yeah.
else? And I like how most of I said on my interview like with Laura, but like I do like how most of his films did feature like black protagonists, and it felt very organic. They weren't there like a. I mean, I know there's whitewash, but the point of whitewash was to show like I watched that one recently. Like that's another thing that has like a very grim premise, and you have to make that digestible and accessible for kids, and I think it generally
Hmm.
does succeed because, and the biggest part is just like it doesn't really feel all that different from like Sporn's regular stuff. One of my favorite
Right.
parts of the film is like the after because it deals with the aftermath of that girl who got her face spray painted white by that gang and like how it
Right.
affects her. And then we go to a scene with like her classmates just like talking about her behind her back because they're just so concerned. And like when the teacher's trying to go to one-on-one with the kids, and that specific scene was improv. He was actually speaking to actual kids. And when you hear
Hmm.
it, you hear like a bunch when one of the kids is talking, you hear like all that background noise. He didn't like bother to clean it up. he just like took like the like he interviewed actual kids. He just used that audio and put it directly into the film, and then bothered to like clean it up or anything like that. And that was just
Were
like that's
one of the kids Laura's was that one of Lauren's kids? I know he was tapping into, like who has kids in the studio, or like I have a cousin who has got kids around that age. So I don't know if her Laura Bryson, I don't know if her kids were used. Maybe it was for Lyle Crocodile. I'm not
I don't
sure. But
I feel like she probably mentioned that. But, no, no, I don't know specifically who, but I remember that that specific scene, he took actual audio and like this fully improv, and I think
yeah,
that specific scene is just like very, yeah, that's another form of like realism that most people won't really think about. Because when we think about
yeah,
improv acting, we do think about like a lot of natural acting, which is like the character's going like or something like that. But that you just took actual acting from just like actual kids. You can't get
yep,
any more authentic than that, and you don't
nope,
need like all that. You don't need kind of like, oh, you have to make those kids look as realistic as possible. You don't need that. You have like you got
no.
like the soul of it, and that's all you really need at the end of the day.
And the
What
responses
else?
are natural, right? I mean, they're like
Yeah.
they're not forced, they're not monologuing, they're not wisecracking. They don't
Oh
have this
no.
like
No.
epiphany that's so soulful of like just like,
Mhm.
oh, that wraps it up nicely in a tight little bow. They're like, oh, I feel bad for my friend, and I
Mhm.
wish she were to come back to school so we could just hang out together and play. And it's
Yeah.
like that's what it is.
Mhm.
Um,
Trying to think
yeah.
what else I watched. Abel's Island is like a favorite of one of my friends. I watched that
Oh,
one.
it's
It's
beautiful.
like it's so funny because like you got this rich mouse who acts completely pompous and full of himself, and that usually that specific archetype would be the
Yep.
butt of the joke. No
Yeah.
sympathy, no empathy whatsoever. But like he takes they poke at fun of him a little, but like they still take his struggles very seriously. And there's like a scene where he's like
Yeah. Yeah.
monologuing about missing his wife and stuff like that.
Oh,
It's just
yeah.
yeah. At the end of the day,
Oh,
it just feels like regardless of like the scope or like whether it was a passion project or just hired work, like a lot of Michael Sporn's films have a lot of like empathy and sympathy and kindness generally poured into them, and it's like
mhm.
it's you guys who also had like your own like because he just got everybody have like their own very unique backgrounds and point of skills and just like that
Yeah.
just adds into the mix to form this sort of like this beautiful perfect storm of just like just great animation, great cartoons. I just wish more people got, and that's why I'm doing this in the first place.
Well,
And I just wish
no. I
more people
mean,
got a chance to see them.
I wish I was able to work on Abel's Island. Because that was I'd come in, they had just finished it.
Oh,
So
damn.
yeah, which I love the ending of that film, which I don't care if I'm spoiling it because the film is from 1988. But the ending of the film where the wife comes home and he's cleaned himself up. He's escaped the island. He's home.
Yeah.
He's cleaned himself up and he's wearing his clothes, his nice ascot and everything. And she's like, Abel, and he goes, I got your scarf for you, which that set off the whole thing in the beginning where he
Yeah.
it blows away from her and he chases after it, and that's what causes him to get marooned. But
Hmm.
the fact that he brings back the scarf to her, it's so beautiful. And I
Sweet.
know that's in the William Steig book, but the film I would have loved to work on was Hunting of the Snark, and
Oh
that
yeah,
was and that
that's
was that free form
flowers.
idea. Like he
Yeah.
and Bridget were just they were just rambling off this stuff, this
Uh,
sequences, and it was one thing after another, and they threaded it with these the rhymes and the stories, and it was just like this is just so much fun. Um, the one thing though, there was a big falling out between Michael and Western Woods, and I think Abel's Island was the last thing they did. The next thing they were going to do was one of my personal childhood favorite books. It was a William Stein book called The Bad Island, about this island that just everything, the plants are evil. The water surrounding the island is boiling hot. There are insects that bite you, and everything is just miserable and depressing. And then one day, the monsters, they fight all day, and then it freezes them solid at night. And then one morning, one of the monsters sees a flower and they freak out. Like they see this beautiful thing, like they've never seen anything like that before. And then they start seeing more and more of them. And it's about evolution and about change. And it was so amazing. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to work. I get to animate and work on an animated version of my children's book. And then like the deals, like the whole deal like got shut down. And I was like, oh man,
Mm,
ah.
darn.
But darn it,
Yeah.
damn you. Uh anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
So,
well, I'm sure you probably get more than enough, but like I said,
yep.
if you ever needed more stuff or you need want some more contacts,
Hmm.
um, I can drop some names for you and tell them, hey, you should do this. It'll be fun.
I usually like to ask,
Sure.
is there one specific thing you want to like words of wisdom you want to end it on? Or
I guess that whole thing, be yourself.
yeah,
I
that's
know
true.
that sounds hokey, but it's true. Be yourself.
It's
Don't
true,
don't
especially
don't no, don't sacrifice, your vision or your words to be for someone else. Um, there's going to be a lot of times where you're going to get a job, and it's either going to you're going to have to make that decision. I have to put move feet. I got to put food on the table.
yeah.
I got to make rent, or and then just suck it up and just get this thing. Or you really go into a darker place and like I have to do this. Um, I guess stay with your integrity. um, I guess, yeah. I mean, you're gonna have to do work on things that you may not like, but when you're working on I always encourage people to work on their own stuff in between gigs whenever they can. It's not going to get made by itself. It's that that pad is not going to sit there. That keyboard is not going to sit there, and you're going to wake up one morning and like an animated sequence is done. Um, uh, Try to if you feel passionate about working, then do it, or either that or um gosh, there are other ways of expressing yourself artistically. So if you
Hmm.
can even
Yeah.
go that route, and um, I knew somebody that she contacted me. She worked at the Met, and she was in restoration, and she was like maybe a year out of college, and she contacted me and she was like, I want to be an animator. I've seen your work and I've seen the stuff that you've done at so and such a place and this, and I want to quit my job and I want to do animation. And I was like, don't I go, do you have 401k? Do you have health insurance? And she was like, yes. And like, do you have paid vacation and sick days? And she said, yes. And I'm like, stay with your job. This is
Yeah.
do animation on the side, do it after work, do it on weekends in the spaces of your free time. You can explore that, but still have not to worry about, you know, paying your bills. Um, there's ways of doing it. Um, but just try to try to try to create in that pocket, I guess. Because I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know any other way unless you're from a wealthy family or you marry somebody that's incredibly well off or they have a really good job. They're a doctor, a lawyer, or a stockbroker. Um, but I mean, I've never met anybody who's married to anybody like that who is also an animator, so or works in animation. But yeah, I guess words of wisdom, just be yourself. Don't let don't try to be something you're not. So is that
I mean, those are your words of
is
wisdom.
the thing? It is
That's
it is what it is, and
it is
yeah,
what it is.
it
Yep,
is what
yep,
it
yep.
is.
All right.
So
Well, again, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank
oh,
you
my
so much
pleasure,
for taking the
man. My
time out to
pleasure.
like talk with me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
hopefully we can do a part two to this if you want to.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And yeah, that's it.
Okay. All
All
right.
right.
Thanks, Jaja.